Farm Bureau to chat with Deuce McAllister, color analyst on the Saints Radio Network. Former New Orleans Saint running back, played his college ball at Ole Miss. You know Deuce. He doesn't even need an introduction, but introducing him nonetheless. Deuce, moving closer and closer to the start of the season, does it feel like the momentum is positive, or are folks in the NFL just treading water?
I think you're probably in between of both of those statements. I think you're treading water in some sense because injuries are starting to pile up for a few teams. And then the actual playing the games, whether or not you can have fans, I think there is, you have a few teams that have already made that decision, and some of those decisions are coming down, really it's city by city or state by state in some instances. So, they're progressing forward, but I think you're starting to see some of the other things that affect you in football starting to take place.
In terms of getting ready for the season, how different has this year been? There were no mini camps, no OTAs. You just kind of roll right into the workout, and there was a ramp-up period to being able to practice. But now that they're in pads, does it look like a normal practice?
Looks like a normal practice from the sense that, they're doing things that they normally would have been doing anyway. And, from that stance or sense, you would have already played a couple of preseason games as well. And so we know there won't be any of that. So, for guys that's really trying to make this squad, particularly for the New Orleans Saints, it has to be your best foot forward, and you can't have any mental mistakes. You can't allow the little things that normally you may be able to make up for in the games to affect you in practice. And so you say, hey, look, I played one play and then I go on to the next one. That's truly the mindset that you have to have, just because the only evaluation will be via the practice tape.
How much reaction have you gotten to a little innocent tweet that went out? After watching stretch and walk through, I say the Saints are going to the Super Bowl. Have a good day.
Have a good day. I mean, hey, that's all I needed to see, Richard. I needed to just see them have that walkthrough and then go through their stretching, a couple jumping jacks, a couple calisthenics, and it's over. And I said, yep, they're going. They're going. Gotten some ribbing, some pretty good, but I would be highly surprised if this team is not at least in the playoff conversation. And once you get into the playoffs, anything can really happen. And so we hope that this is the year that they can finally erase some of those demons that have haunted them the last couple of years.
You said at least in the playoffs. I mean, that sounds pretty conservative, but I'm curious, is that an NFL player mindset, or is that a coach mindset, or are you seeing something? I mean, do players say, look, let's just get to the playoffs, and then we'll see what happens? Or when there's a special team, is just getting there not enough?
Well, to be honest, just getting to the playoffs is really not enough for this squad. And it hadn't been enough really the last 2 years with the types of talent that you have. So I think just to get there, then for them, what you really want to see is, okay, where are we health-wise? What is our path to the Super Bowl? What are some of the things that maybe you didn't control early on, or you may have set it up perfectly? Go back to the Rams season, where you lose in the NFC Championship game. It may have been set up perfectly, and so you didn't get the luck or the call that you needed. So, you're going to need all of those things to kind of fall your way. It's never easy to get to the Super Bowl, even though you may be the more talented team. Yeah. It may have been injuries that at the wrong time that hindered you from advancing. And so you need a little luck. I will admit that. You have to play well. You have to be healthy. And I think that's where we don't know where they will be, whether they have already peaked as far as defensively, offensively, or even in special teams. Have they already peaked? Do they have an abundant amount of injuries at certain positions or key positions? And that may hinder them from advancing like they want to. So the goal is always, yes, you want to get to the Super Bowl. But, okay, let's handle something that realistically you can do. That's winning your division and going and qualifying for the playoffs. Once you've done that, then you kind of assess everything else.
Deuce McAllister on your radio on the Farm Bureau phone line. Deuce, I don't know how long we've been having these conversations, 3-4 years. And for at least that long, I've been asking you, how much longer can Drew go? What about Drew Brees? And it's always been let's get through this year. I think he can go a little bit longer. I mean, he's got the TV deal that's signed and it's waiting out there. Is there any question in your mind or anyone's mind that this is it for Drew Brees, or is there some crazy scenario where he goes, yeah, this one and maybe one more?
And one more. I think you can probably cap it at 2. I feel comfortable in saying
Finally
that this
saying
year
that.
just because, I feel comfortable in saying, this year and possibly next year. It just really depends on how this year finishes and how he feels like he is playing, if he's still in an elite level or, it's really fell off considerably, then, I don't think that he would be ashamed and say, hey, look, I'm hanging him up. And so I would not be surprised one way or the other if he decides I want to give it one more shot. We were successful. It was maybe no fault of my own, or I don't want to put myself through that heartbreak again. We aren't good enough, and I want to just move forward. And so I can see all 3 scenarios really playing out for him, even him being the supreme competitor that he is. But I feel comfortable in saying 2 years.
Who's the most important offensive player for the Saints? And maybe I should say not named Drew Brees.
Most important offensive player for the Saints, I'm probably going to say left tackle Teron Armstead. Okay. And the reason I say that is obviously he's an elite player. I think he's probably top 3 at his position. The Saints got the news today that Andres Teat, who they just signed to an extension this offseason, has a broken left thumb. So that's not a good position to be in for them nor Andres. But I think what they have to do offensively when Teron goes down or when he has gotten hurt the last couple of years, you can really tell it. You can tell it from formations. You can tell it from offensive plays. And that's probably the one position you can't hide as much. And, there's not a lot elite left tackles in the NFL. So I think he is the one player that you can't lose for an extended amount of time outside of Drew Brees, where everyone else you can kind of maybe disguise or scheme enough to still be successful.
Deuce, we know this is going to be a season that looks unlike any that we've seen before. There weren't that many guys that opted out this season. There were some, and I feel like those decisions largely have kind of been respected by teammates. But once the guys got there and have started practice and have started camp, are they going about things normally, or does it look different in a COVID world?
It looks different in the COVID world. I mean, Richard, for us, even to be able to cover and see, they can only have so many reporters at practice. And for myself, even though you consider yourself a part of the extended staff of that team, we even have to get tested, and I've only been to a couple of practices that have been open to the public, but we had to start getting tested for COVID almost a week or 4 days before you can even go to practice. And then the players, they still daily get tested. And so I think that's just different. I mean, there's a tent, there's a trailer that's set up, and, you go in, you basically get tested. And so what you can do outside of the building, even though they have a hotel and a premises, kind of a bubble rented for those guys, you still have to be cautious. And just because you come in and you're practicing, you're getting ready for a game, when you leave, you still have to be cautious of what you're doing outside of the building. And that's going to be something that's going to be interesting to watch. Does a team have a rash of players that that test positive? How does the NFL handle that? How does that team handle that? And how will that affect you from a game planning standpoint? So a lot more has been put on coaches as well as staff, and Mickey and his staff, just because of some of the unknown stuff they can't control.
Yeah. It's certainly a strange time, but it does feel like we're going to get football. Are you at this point, and only 30 seconds or so left, are you at this point confident that when we get to the late part of September, we are playing football all across the NFL?
No, I am confident that we will play football all across the NFL this year, even in September or whenever the original kickoff is. Or I would not be surprised if we do have some delay or stoppage of play as well, just because there are some outbreaks. I mean, flare-ups, whatever you want to call them. I would not be one bit surprised if you do have a stoppage, but I do think that they are going to play football.
Well, hopefully you are right, and we will all rejoice if that is the case. Deuce, always enjoy our conversations. Thanks for your time this afternoon.
All right, no problem. Thank you for having me.
Deuce McAllister on the Farm Bureau phone line. Check out favorites.com and go with the home team.